What's up, people? Welcome to your 31st XHTML and CSS tutorial. And in this tutorial, I'm going to be clearing up a lot of confusion that you probably have surrounding the div thing that I talked about a couple tutorials ago. So, a little refresher. A couple tutorials ago, I told you guys that in order to position elements exactly where you want on your web page, then you use something called div. And they're pretty much like boxes that you can move around the screen, and they let you make the layout a lot prettier than you could with just tables or just using plain XHTML. But you guys are probably thinking this, alright Bucky, if I have a bunch of different boxes and they're all just called div, then how does the browser know what div I want to go where? Well, the answer is through the use of something called IDs. Now, ID is a lot like a well, it's kind of a lot like a style, but it's different as well. You use IDs a lot with divs in order to position boxes at different locations. For example, if you had one div that you wanted to go in the top left and you had one div that you wanted to go in the bottom right, you would give them different IDs, and then you can tell your browser, I want this one to go in the top left and I want this one to go in the bottom right. So let's go ahead and make two divs first of all. So div and ending div, and let's go ahead and make another one right under it. And in the first div, let's just go ahead and write Bobby is the best. And under that one, write Hobart is the coolest. It doesn't matter what you write. Just go ahead and make them different. Separate but equal. What's that from? Quote it and you get a penny. So anyways, in order to change these divs and make sure that the browser knows that they're different, we need to create something called an ID for each one. So let's go ahead and create an ID, and in order to create an ID, instead of the period like we did before that we used with styles, or excuse me, classes, we need to write the pound sign. So pound sign whenever you create an ID, and now type the name of whatever ID you want, whatever name pops in your head. I'm going to type mine Bobby because I'm going to apply mine to this div that is called, that has a sentence and it has Bobby in it. So anyways, name it anything you want except a cuss word because that's rude. And now apply some styles to it, like let's make it easy to see, so let's give it a border. So border equals 2 pixels solid red. And now I'm going to throw you guys for a loop and add that position thing that we don't know what it means yet, but I'm going to clear it up in a few tutorials. Absolute, definitely spelled down right. Absolute, that's a little better. And let's go ahead and take this div and move it down 15 pixels. So top, move it 15 pixels from the top, and move it, let's say 25 pixels from the left. So now what we have is an ID Bobby. Now any div that we give this ID to is going to be this position and have this border. So let's go ahead and make another ID right now, and we can do that by just copying this and pasting it and changing the ID name, and change this ID to Hobart and change the border to green. Green sounds like a Hobart color, and move it let's say 65 off the top and 5 from the left. So check it out. We have two divs right here and right here, and we have two IDs that are different. This one has a red border and it's in the top left, and this one has a green border and it's kind of below it, shifted to the left. So now we want to say, alright, for this div right here, we want to give the ID Bobby. So in order to do that, go ahead and write ID equals Bobby. Make sure you don't include the pound sign whenever you're writing it. Make sure I didn't write booby there. Make sure you don't write the pound sign whenever you're writing it is your XHTML attribute. The only time that you use that pound sign is when you're making it a CSS. So whenever you're using it in between the style tags, include the pound sign. This is just your way of telling CSS, yes, this is an ID. So anyways, we now applied this ID to this div right here. So whenever we refresh it, we get Bobby is the best right here, and check it out. it now has a border of 2 pixels solid red. It's now moved down from the top 15 pixels, and it's now moved to the right 25 pixels. So that's what happens when we apply an ID to a div. You pretty much allows you to position it anywhere you want on the screen. So now if you go ahead and take this ID and apply it to this div, what's going to happen is it's going to take this text, Hobart is the coolest, and it's going to say, alright, I have the idea of Hobart, so I'm going to give it a green border, move it down 65 and left 5 pixels. So when we refresh it, that's what we get. So anyways, that's what I'm basically telling you how to do. You have two divs that are basically identical and your browser can't tell them apart. Well, in order to give them identities, you need to first of all write what you want your ID to equal, pretty much give them a unique identity or a fingerprint, and then you write what you want that identity to mean. Whenever something has the identity of Bobby, I want to give it a red border and put it in this location. Whenever anything has the identity of Hobart, I want to give it a green border and put it in this location. So that way we can use divs to position different elements around the screen. So before we had one div and we can only do one thing with it, but now we can have a countless number of divs, infinite divs, and we can position them all around the screen however we'd like. So now you can start to see how divs are so useful in making a custom layout. So now what we can do is we can make one div for our banner in the top right, and one div for our logo in the top left, and one div for our navigation bar at the bottom or our left, wherever we want it. So that is how you use IDs to distinguish divs from one another. So if this tutorial was confusing, then just watch it again and I promise you guys will get it. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I guess I'll see you guys later.